In 1992, Charles Taylor, aiming for a decisive victory, launched a massive assault on Monrovia, a brutal operation he called Operation Octopus. He tried to seize the capital outright, to crush all opposition. The city endured heavy, bloody fighting. Civilians were trapped, caught between the warring factions with nowhere to run. Homes became battlegrounds, streets ran with blood, and the future seemed to shrink with each passing day. It was during this period that the use of child soldiers became widespread and truly heartbreaking. Boys, some as young as 8 or 9, and even some girls, were abducted from their homes or coerced into joining. Many were given drugs to make them fearless, to make them commit unspeakable acts. They were told that violence was their only protection, their only way to survive. A former child fighter years later said with a haunted look, "They told me, if you don't shoot, you die. So I shot." This chilling reality turned a generation of children into weapons of war. The war kept getting more complicated. Even ULIMO, the group formed to fight Taylor, split into 2 new factions, ULIMO K and ULIMO J. Former allies turned into bitter enemies. The war wasn't just a big conflict anymore. It was thousands of tiny wars, fragmented, localized, and utterly unpredictable. By the mid-1990s, Liberia had more warlords than it had functioning government ministries. The state had truly ceased to exist. Against all odds, in 1997, elections were actually held. The Liberian people, utterly exhausted by years of constant fighting, voted. But they did so not necessarily out of hope, but from a mix of fear and cold realism. A common saying spread through the country: "He killed my ma, he killed my pa, but I will vote for him." It meant, essentially, that people were so desperate for the violence to end, they would vote for the man who seemed most likely to stop it, even if he was the very cause. Charles Taylor, the chief warlord, won with a massive 75% of the vote. Many hoped that finally being in legitimate power would force Taylor to bring peace. But the opposite happened. Instead of bringing peace, conflict spread even further. Taylor began supporting rebels in neighboring Sierra Leone, especially the brutal Revolutionary United Front, or RUF, in exchange for their blood diamonds. This fueled another horrific civil war next door and caused regional tensions to explode. Sanctions were imposed on Liberia, but they did little to stop Taylor. Inside Liberia, repression quickly returned. Anyone who dared to oppose Taylor's government faced harassment, imprisonment, or simply disappeared. New rebel groups started to form, the most prominent being the Liberians United for Reconciliation and Democracy, or LURD. They began launching attacks from neighboring Guinea in 1999. The first civil war might have officially ended with Taylor's election, but the second one had just begun. By the early 2000s, Liberia was once again a full-blown war zone. LURD fighters were pushing hard from the north. Another new group, the Movement for Democracy in Liberia, or MODEL, attacked from the south. Taylor's government forces, trapped and desperate, retaliated with extreme brutality. Once again, civilians bore the brunt, fleeing their homes in massive numbers. Monrovia, the capital, found itself under siege again in 2003. Shelling became a daily terror. Food and water shortages were rampant, and fear dominated every waking moment. Families sheltered wherever they could, in schools, stadiums, or abandoned buildings, hoping to survive another day. Aid agencies struggled heroically to operate in the chaos, trying to reach a starving and dying population. Then, in June 2003, a major legal bombshell dropped. The Special Court for Sierra Leone, an international tribunal, indicted Charles Taylor for war crimes and crimes against humanity. The charges were linked to his brutal support of the RUF in Sierra Leone, specifically his role in mutilations, killings, and widespread human rights abuses. This international pressure, combined with the rebel groups closing in on Monrovia, finally became too much for Taylor. In August 2003, he resigned as president and accepted exile in Nigeria. With his departure, a fragile window opened for genuine peace talks. After 14 years of unimaginable violence, the guns in Liberia finally began to fall silent. The story of Liberia's war isn't just about internal chaos, it's also about the complicated dance of international involvement. Early on, Charles Taylor's rise was helped by regional backers, while later, the anti-Taylor rebels received cross-border support from neighboring states. The conflict wasn't just Liberian, it became regional, spilling over borders and drawing in different powers. ECOMOG, the West African peacekeeping force, despite its flaws and accusations of its own missteps, played a crucial role. In key moments, their intervention prevented total state collapse, especially in Monrovia. The United Nations also stepped in, imposing arms embargoes, though enforcing them was incredibly difficult in such a chaotic environment. In 2003, with Taylor finally out of the picture, a landmark agreement was signed in Ghana, the Accra Comprehensive Peace Agreement. This set the stage for a new beginning. A massive UN peacekeeping mission, UNMIL, was deployed. Its soldiers helped to stabilize the country, disarm the thousands of former fighters, and support the holding of free and fair elections. Liberia then took a monumental step forward. In 2006, the country elected Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, making her Africa's first elected female president. This marked a profound new political chapter, a sign of hope and renewal. Justice, though slow, eventually caught up with Charles Taylor. He was arrested, transferred to The Hague, and in 2012, he was convicted of aiding and abetting war crimes and crimes against humanity in Sierra Leone. He received a 50-year sentence, a powerful message that even powerful warlords can be held accountable. Liberia also embarked on its own healing journey with a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Its findings laid bare the atrocities committed by all factions, urging a focus on victim healing and national reconciliation, though debates about accountability still continue. The scars of war remain: deep trauma, lost generations, and damaged infrastructure. But alongside those scars, there is an incredible resilience. Charles Taylor's wars in Liberia are a chilling reminder of how quickly a country can unravel when unchecked ambition, deep-seated grievances, and armed power collide. They expose the ugly truth of how natural resources can fuel endless conflict, how ethnic fears can be manipulated to divide and conquer, and the absolute tragedy of child soldiers, robbed of their innocence and futures. The story also shows the painful limits of peace deals when trust and genuine justice are missing. But Liberia's story isn't just about destruction and despair. It is also a powerful testament to survival. It's about communities slowly rebuilding brick by brick. It's about former fighters who once held rifles returning to school, trying to reclaim a lost childhood. It's about courageous women leading peace movements, demanding a better future. And it's about voters who, after years of bloodshed, chose ballots over bullets, taking a chance on peace. A Liberian survivor once simply said, "War took everything, but it did not take our will to live again." Liberia bled for power, but from those ruins, a fragile hope emerged. It's a stark warning that unchecked ambition can destroy nations, but it's also a powerful reminder that people, with their enduring spirit, can rise again. If this story moved you, you won't want to miss our next video on the devastating conflict in the Congo.